Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Because We Exist, Our Cause, Our Effect. We are so glad at Food Co-op Initiative that you're here to join us. And I'm about to introduce the team at River Valley Co-op. And I just want to share real quick, we are so excited. They are helping us kick off this series. They've been the most patient guinea pigs in getting this set up because they are one of the earliest startups in this third wave of startup food cooperation. And they have been such dedicated mentors and guidance providers and supporters of the startup movement ever since. So thank you to you guys for kicking it off with us. And if you could introduce yourselves and your role at the co-op.
Okay, me first? All right, so hi, my name is Rochelle. I'm the general manager for the co-op. And I started working with the co-op in 2001. The co-op had $50,000 in the bank and had a location that they were excited about, which didn't work out, but many of them didn't. Anyway, but we did get open in 2008.
Awesome. Thank you, Rochelle. And so Rochelle's their founding general manager and still their general manager to this day. And can we let's hear from Dorian.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Dorian Gregory. I live here in Northampton, and I am member number 26, which always gets a bit of attention at the cash register still because we have over 17,000 members now. I started talking with a couple of friends back in 1998, wondering why our fair town didn't have a co-op. And a whole bunch of other people joined in the organizing for it. By the time the store opened in 2008, I was busy with other things, but excited to see the store opening. In 2010, I ran for a position on the board. So I was not a founding board member, but I joined the board soon after and served for just over 10 years. And then I stepped away for a couple of years, and I've recently rejoined the board. So I have a hard time staying away.
I would say many core cooperators will recognize that will resemble them.
I know it's true. And, go where you feel like you can make a difference is what someone said to me once, and I get a lot of joy from serving the co-op and shopping the store.
Excellent.
So that's me.
And Natasha.
Just waiting for the owl to come over to see me.
We tested this, folks, but still.
Hello, Natasha Latour. I'm the director of marketing. I've been with the co-op for 15 years. And what you say, I lived the co-op dream. I started as a cashier, and I just kept going. So nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Natasha. It's so funny because they legitimately came early and tested all of this. We're going to jump in real quick. I want to give you all just some information and a little perspective on who River Valley is. So we're going to start River Valley Food Co-op opened their first store in Northampton, Massachusetts, and has expanded to a second store in East Hampton, Massachusetts. And the population of those two communities individually are 31.8 thousand and 16,000. That's some basics. There's a picture of where they are on the map and a star. But I would love to you guys can share any, people are kind of curious always about characteristics. Is this like part of a larger metro area? Is it a college town? Is it rural? What kind of community can you share with us about your community?
So this area is kind of known as the 5 college area. So we have one small college in Northampton. East Hampton it does not have a college in it, and it is a more of an old mill town that has had a renaissance through the arts. I would say heavily leaning into the arts to fill those old mill buildings and kind of bring the town economy back in that way.
I might add to that we're generally kind of a rural community. We're at a crossroads between, we're a couple hours away from Boston. We're a few hours north of New York City. There's a lot of farmland around, and the 5 colleges are all within a 20-mile radius. So that gives a little flavor of the general area. We're the part around the Connecticut River Valley, where there are a lot of just a lot of good soil, a lot of good farms, and that's a big part of who we are.
And I forgot to prep you for this question, Rochelle. So pop quiz, um, but I mean, the walk first question's easy. Are they walkable, bikeable stores? But are you drawing in customers from around the region, or is it mostly serving right in this community? Is most of your customer base coming from right in the communities they're in?
I would say that probably 80% comes from within 5 miles. But we do draw from up and down the river and around as well. Partly because the community these communities are sort of hubs that people gravitate to for arts and different kinds of things. So yeah, so definitely definitely that. Is there anything else to add?
Well, I would add that, we've done some things around the stores to make it very bike friendly, but it's not a super, super bike friendly community. It's not walkable. Being rural, things are a bit spread out, and, parking is important to the store. Parking cars.
Now, I'm going to give away that Dorian also works with a cooperative lender, and so knows this not only from her own co-op, because it's a critical issue. And I thank you guys for answering it, because I think a lot of startups, we don't know that some food co-ops are drawing directly from the community they're in, and they have a really tight bubble. And some of us are regional hubs, right? And so River Valley is more of a regional, like, yes, absolutely, we serve a lot of this community, but we're also drawing people into the community, actually bringing in dollars from outside the community into the economy and bringing people in. When you see that 20% or higher coming from outside the community. So and those of us who are drawing from outside the community, we have to have parking.
Well, even I would say even in community, you need parking because shopping for groceries that's heavy stuff, and not everyone is young and fit and able to ride a bicycle and pack that stuff back and forth.
I appreciate that. I think it's sometimes hard for us to remember we absolutely want to live our values, but it's also a value for us to be accessible to young families, to disabled people, and so, we want to balance. I just love, because startups are always, I understand it. It's hard to find enough parking. People are like, we don't need the parking here. Everyone's going to walk and bike. So I had to lean in for a sec.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll get into, let's talk about you guys and organizing your co-op. Now, you guys incorporated in 1999, but I think you started organizing even a little before that. Is that correct?
Yeah, a year or two before that, just gathering people together in living rooms and talking about what we wanted.
And that's usually how it takes, a year or two. I think what was unusual back then is, or maybe it wasn't, but this was the beginning of the third wave. We hadn't seen a lot of food co-op organizing in decades. We actually had been losing food co-ops from the 70s wave in large numbers. And so the mid 90s, this was a new surprise. It's mid to late 90s that people were starting to organize co-ops again. And we thought, we're going to get this done in 2 or 3 years.
We didn't know,
Well, and I think, Rochelle, when I first heard you tell River Valley's story, you almost seem to think that, well, we were kind of an outlier. We ran into these troubles and it took us longer. Your story has actually become downright average in the last 5 years. And I wondered, you guys used to be like,
I always thought people would come along and do it much faster. But fun fact, I found out that that big supermarket chains usually take on average 7 years to open a new store from the time they think they want to put a store in a community until they get it open. And they have a whole big staff and whole big divisions that work on all that stuff. So it takes a while.
Oh, but I love that. I want us to take a moment and absorb that if it takes major corporations 7 years from thinking we might want to put a store there, and it's taking us 5 to 10 years to do that, even 12, just as volunteers, as organizers, so maybe hiring a few people to help, I think we're kind of, we're kind of kicking their butts. I think we're doing pretty good. And I think that's a great point to bring up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's very much like standing on street corners with a sandwich board and three-fold little photocopied flyers, to join the co-op. And, we didn't have a place, we didn't have anything, but people were buying shares and becoming co-op members. We got about 2,000 members before we opened.
And when you joined, Dorian, when was that in this process, and why did you join?
Well, it was very, very early in the process. So I was the 26th person to sign up. So I don't remember now if that was in 99 or 2000 or whenever we initially started, taking on owner shares. So I put my $150 in and became member 26. And I did it because, like I think people still who are shopping the store, I wanted a store in my community that I could shop for groceries and trust that I was getting something that was paying attention to local farmers, local produce, building resilience in the food system that I had come to be very frustrated and distrusting of. And I wanted a store that would focus on those things and that I was part of a community that controlled it, that we could build this community asset that would generate jobs and wealth for my community, for me, for us.
Really well said. I think that probably resonates with everybody watching, everyone who's still organizing, everyone who's hoping to organize, everyone who's open. I mean, those are the reasons, right? And really well said. And I'm going to take just a minute to plug. So on the right, on this side, you will see something that we call now the Food Co-op Development Framework. This is on the FCI website if you haven't seen it yet. And it's a evolution from the four cornerstones in three stages model that was founded actually based on studying startups like River Valley and about how do we do this. And it's gotten a little more complicated. And there's some things that were already gotten more complicated. And we were calling it stage 2B and 3A and God knows what. And we just broke it up. But in that, though, there was a brilliant identification of something that never existed before, which is called stage 5. And this was actually identified by Michelle Stry and Dave Olson at National Co-op Grocers. And they said, the problem we keep seeing as the ones who stay around, who's supporting these stores after they open is they get to opening day and they go, huzzah, we're done.
Whoops.
And most of us will not hit the financial plan that we planned. We won't have the exact right product mix. We maybe won't really deliver the vision the way we promised right away. We'll need tweaking. And getting to actually delivering the vision of a financially sustainable, vision-centered food co-op that is open for business, that doesn't happen on day one. And for some startups, it happens. We have found, so we're still debating it. We think the fastest it can happen is 18 months. And for some, they are still in this stage 7, year 7, trying to figure it out. And they said, we need to talk about this, that really your co-op, you have manifested the vision and can say job well done when the store is actually what you dreamed of, sustainable and vision-centered. And so I was talking, this is new, and so I was talking to Rochelle about it and said, about how long do you think it took for you guys were like, okay, we financially feel stable, we know where we're going, and the vision's really resonating with people. They feel like they're getting the values that we promised them. And you said probably about 2 years, 2010, does that still feel right?
Yeah. We started to stabilize. I do have to say, I considered myself an experienced co-op general manager, and I knew opening a brand new store was going to be really hard. And so I tried to tell everybody, like, as much work as it is to get open, it's much more work to actually make it work. And it's not going to be perfect right away. And I thought I just have to say it was totally humbling. It is really, really hard. And back then we didn't have, there was, an early stage of FCI. There was an early stage of NCG. Colluminate did a lot of relocations and things, and expansions, but startups weren't a thing. And so there's much more support today than there was back then.
And
But
grocery
still,
is a
it
lot
was.
harder though at the same time. So I think we're still seeing the same trend, which is the rare occasion that it is not common to see startups get to what we consider graduating stage 5, and being what we consider an established food co-op, no longer a startup for 18 to 24 months. That is still rare. And it is generally a store that has been opened by an experienced GM with substantial support. And some experienced GMs with substantial support still aren't getting there in 18 months to 24 months. It's tough. It's a really tough road. So what you guys pulled off is incredible, but also is, I think, a testament to the fact that you had not only so much experience yourself, which startups don't always have a choice about, but so much support that you were willing to pull in and to help you do it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, one more stat slide. People want to know, they always want to know, how big is this store? So for the GMs watching, because I know a bunch of you emailed me and said you were looking forward to this. Your first store, this was 19,000 square feet total and 11,000 retail. That's a very common ratio. The kind of, we say, two-thirds retail, one-third back of house. Pretty common, what we're aiming for ratio. But the size, very uncommon. For you startups watching, we have seen, I think this is the only startup food co-op I know of in the third wave that opened at this size. This is really unusual. And I wonder if you could speak to that for a moment, Rochelle, and how you guys came to that.
Yeah, we were about 5 miles away is a Whole Foods store. And so we had a pretty sophisticated market in terms of what people were used to. I mean, we definitely had, other grocery stores in town too that did a lot with fresh foods and that too. So we wanted somewhere between 15 and 18,000 square feet. Actually, we opened with about 17,500, but then we did a little addition in 2010 because it wasn't quite big enough. But anyway, we knew that we needed a store that people would want to shop in, and would be able to shop in and would be able to meet their needs. And so and this is scaled down. Initially, the founders, before they did any research, wanted like a 40,000 square foot conventional store because they thought that would drive the most impact for the local farmers and food producers compared to a smaller store. So that was not knowing how much a 30 or 40,000 square foot store would cost, or how hard it is to compete in conventional food with other supermarkets if they're around. So, yeah. So, so it's a smaller size grocery store, but it's big enough that you can have everything in it.
And I just want to mention to those of you who are startups and watching, and those of you who are curious about startups, right now, about the average size for a startup food co-op, and the sizes are still wildly all over the place. What serves in one community will not serve the other. Sometimes it's a surprise. Sometimes in a rural community, you can do a really large store. In a city, you can do a really small, and vice versa. But the average we still see is around 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. And the big end is like 10,000 usually, and we see as small as 2,000 square feet do some really, really great things for their community. So I just want to put that in perspective. And one last thing, because I want to get us to the values and why people are really here. I do want to point this out, though. Keep in mind, they've been open 17 years, but going from 8.2 million in sales at opening to 58.8, 70 staff to 250 staff. And again, this is an outlier, but if food co-ops that have been open 10, 15, 17 years, you're going to have seen those opening sales and jobs double, triple, sometimes even quadruple. Over time, you really do see these numbers increase, and the impact from that is incredible. And but this is an outlier thing. And I think your big jump was when you put in the second store, which was when?
2021.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. So and we started working on that one in 2014. It started on the idea of that we needed a second store because we were outgrowing the first one.
So you decided to go really speedy and cut it down to 6 years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And for those gyms of us watching who've expanded stores, like all of us know that's dead on. It's how long it takes.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I want to get us really into the values. Thank you guys for all that. I knew people, there's a lot of cookies in here who wanted to know all the stats and this, but I want to get us into the values that started this food co-op and drive this food co-op. For those who are not experienced with this, don't worry, but the language of ends is often how the food co-op interprets its values into a statement that the GM can then have enough room to, with their team, interpret how they're going to deliver, but it really encapsulates what we want to accomplish for who in the community. And so what we have on the screen here are actually Rochelle's interpretations of their mission statement. And Rochelle, could you share the mission statement?
Yes, it's a just marketplace that nourishes the community.
Excellent.
So just elegant. I think it took like 3 weeks of multiple meetings for the board to come to it. And so the ends, that is why we exist, to create a just marketplace that nourishes the community. So a bigger idea of impact, it's not just the store, it's about how business is done in our region, in our community, and to have a positive impact that nourishes the community on many different levels. So, and the who for was people in Hamden and Hampshire County, which is the area that we're located in, and at a cost that ensures that the co-op is able to thrive. So
And
then
this
I got to,
evolves, right, over time. So you interpreted this into these 5 main points.
yes, yes,
All
yeah.
right.
So then I get to interpret, like, how am I going? So what am I going to do, and how will we know if we're making progress? And a big thing for us was supporting local farmers and food producers,
Mm-hmm.
um, and being a really strong partner to build that local food system.
And then you've got some
And
ones that
then,
I'm used to hearing from startups a lot. We want to be an economic engine of food retail sales for our community. We want to address issues of social justice, environmental sustainability, be a progressive union employer. That's an unusual one, but I want to come back to that sec. And although not unusual to hear in the values of a food co-op that they want to be an excellent employer or a values-based employer, and then this continually building community between the customers, the owners, the vendors, and the community businesses. And so it's really kind of these 5 things you guys are trying to manifest. Dorian, when you first became an owner, is this what you envisioned? Are these the things you were hoping for?
Thanks, JQ. Yes, and in other words, I had a general idea in my mind that included most of these things, if not all of them. Could I have put them in exactly these words, or did I know that, when we were a couple of years in and employees wanted to form a union, that we would be very quick to say, yes, we accept that, let's do it. I don't know that when I was signing on as member 26 that I knew that we were going to be continually adding co-op owners every year, like 1,000 a year. We keep building the ownership. So the specifics of it, yes and no. The mission, the end statement that the founding board developed and that still sustains today, a just marketplace that nourishes the community. Yeah, definitely. How it gets interpreted and how we see the results of it is, like you said, a really living experience and evolving constantly. It's really a fun part of my role now as a board member.
Excellent. I wanted to share that. And I will say it's a little more unusual in food co-ops. You're getting some advice now that might have Rochelle looking at me sideways a little now for if you're a start board, that quite often GMs are coming in these days with either less experience or they are not a lack of co-op experience. Even if they have terrific grocery experience, they don't really fully understand the co-op model, or they've never been in a role to interpret and report, and they are just trying to get that store open. They usually are coming in these days. I'm not sure I love the trend. I understand it financially, but GMs are coming in with less and less time on the ground before they have to open the store. We keep seeing this trend move back and forth. It can kind of go up to 2 years, and I see it's very common that they have 6 months or less now with the store before they're opening it, and I know some that had a month. Not on purpose, but that's how long it took to find that GM. And so, you might, as a startup, some here, well, we set these values, and there is absolutely a process of transitioning those values over to the GM, and many GMs, start opening GMs, will kind of stick with what you've got and tweak a little bit and go from there. But the ultimate goal is to get to that end that they can interpret themselves. And I want to give a quick nod here. On the right, if you are following along at home, is what I believe is probably an impact report or annual report, something similar, showing and this is about a cooperative, most co-ops across the country do this, really being transparent and showing their owners in the community how they're delivering. And I wondered if, Natasha, if you could speak about this for a minute, how you guys do that and what it means to the co-op.
But Al gonna pick me up?
Hey there.
Yeah, so I think at some point we transition the language of organizing to community outreach, right? And it's just about everything that made you want to start a co-op and made you want to open the co-op to what the co-op is doing and that message, and talking to the community, talking to the staff, like local, right? It's so important to us. So that is something that we highlight. Community outreach. We do a lot of programs with the community. We do a lot of work with nonprofits. We make sure that they're our partners, right? And they can also, you don't have to be a co-op, but you have to really understand our values and want to be part of that with us.
Absolutely. Well, I guess that's a beautiful segue into, I asked every co-op that's doing this to share their interpretation of their ends, and then to pick 1 to 3 of those and give us some real picture of how they make that end live through their co-op and their programs and what they do. And so River Valley said they wanted to really focus in on this one. I'm going to read aloud for you. Continually build community between customers, co-op owners, our local vendors, other community businesses and organizations, and our staff. And so we're going to switch to a side here, and some beautiful photos of some of the things, just some of the things that happen at River Valley. So we're going to lean into, how do you guys manifest what happens? How do you impact the community in real tactile ways, in a way that expands community and connects people?
Yeah, so want me to kick off?
Yeah.
So just kind of going back to the local food, like we really do partner with local farmers and local food producers. And when we opened in 2008, it was right at the beginning of that economic downturn that started at that point in time. And one of the local vendors was a milk vendor, a dairy farmer. It was a dairy farm co-op, actually. In that economic downturn, they got their product booted out of the conventional grocery stores because it was a little higher priced.
Yeah.
But we opened at that same time and made them our like key brand for local milk. And 2 years later, the people from the co-op came to our annual meeting and said that if the co-op if the co-op hadn't opened, that they would have gone out of business and lost their family farms. So, so like really being partners with, it's not just having another vendor that's local. It really is partnering with people, and we do that. We had a sushi vendor that was an outside vendor doing work in the store. The manager of that sushi was an immigrant whose wife joined him. She proposed a business plan that instead of this like big chain, that they would own their own business. Oh God, here I go again.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were like, great. So we broke the contract with the national company and created a new contract with them, and they've been running their own business for 10
like 10,
10,
11
10
years.
years, and now they're in both of our stores and in a couple of other locations too, and are just a really, have become also an institution in the community,
You're
in their own
you're
right.
just not going to see chains do this, and Rochelle's tearing up and you're trying to kind of control it, but it's real, right? Like we've watched our stores transform lives. When someone tells you my family came, my son and daughter were able to come back to the farm and raise their families here, which they always wanted to do because of the co-op. We thought we were going to have to close our farm, and now my grandchildren are being raised on this farm, running this farm. When you're touching lives of people who wouldn't have ever had economic opportunity, neighbors who had and I want to make sure, I think you guys have experienced this too. I want to say it isn't always a success, but the co-op gives them that opportunity to try it and to build. And it changes the lives and then whole communities economically. And I think
Yeah.
that's incredible. And I want to are there other ways I want to lean into? I can see there's a lot of beautiful photos about the events and the community building here. Just real quick, what other ways do you see your values, the owner's values, the dreams they had manifest through the running of the retail portion of the store?
Yeah. I mean, I guess one of the things that I'm quite proud of that we do, and it's kind of more of the retail, is the Food for All program. And so that is a 10% off discount. And there's quite a few people that can receive it, but SSDI, you have anyone that does WIC, SNAP. We've added anyone who's under like a HEAP program. You can go to our local nonprofit partners, get a letter if you don't necessarily qualify for that. And that is a program that when we started in 2000, I started in 2014 as a marketing. That was like the first program. Like I started in March as marketing, and in April I was like, we're doing this, and I rolled it out. I was like, this is the first thing we're doing. I mean, and it's not cheap, right? It costs us about $400,000 in discounts that we give out, and it's one of those programs that you're like, there is nothing stopping those big grocery stores from doing it, and they don't. Right? So like, talk about impact. Like, I would love for everyone to do it, but they choose not to. But we do. I mean, we write grants for it, and it's really something that, especially in the last 2 years, even from COVID, but especially in the last year, we've seen it's a real need in our community. That people really need it. They look for it. They expect it. We're very fortunate, and for 2 years we got a grant that allowed us to give free produce with a local nonprofit for 2 years. It was just like free produce every year. It had to be from a local farm, and so that was impactful to the local farms, right? So they were able to get extra purchases from us, and we were able to get free produce out to people. So yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's not stopping anyone else from doing it. Whole Foods could do it.
I love your point about that. I was like, I was gonna make it, but you made it for me. I'm like, I'm like, and a lot of times I remember I made a post once on food co-ops were like, well, yeah, but smaller than you guys are bigger, so 400,000, but like even little co-ops are, well, but we are only, able to give out 50,000 maybe in donation discounts last year through our program. And this chain will not be mentioned, just talked about they just gave $500,000 to the community. And I was like, okay, read the fine print over 3 years first, 500,000. And then I did the math. I found out the sales of that store and the sales of that co-op. And the co-op was giving back 17 times as much through their Food for All program than those cute little donations to the sports leagues that was being made by that major chain.
Yeah.
So the co-op is the co-op's walking it, right? We're walking that. And I love that you point to that, Natasha, because I think it's something else with startups. They were always so excited to hear about Food for All and want to know about it, because the reality is we're trying to create, all of us are trying to create food access. And some of us in communities where there's just a lot less disposable income, and people are like, yeah, I love the co-op values, but I can't afford the co-op, because regardless, no matter how big you are, big is good, River Valley Food Co-op, we're still small potatoes, right? So we're not getting the best prices from those distributors. They're giving a very better deals to the big chains. And so it's very hard for us to compete fully on price, and we do in a lot of ways. But the Food for All program is a way that we address that back to the community and I think show community care. And it's really in the end our owners showing it, right? Because they're part of making it happen and funding it and in so many stores.
Yeah, we've also worked with other local food justice organizations on mobile markets that have a schedule that goes to different low income neighborhoods, and we add bananas and other products that they can't get from local farmers to that offering. And just we also do the Change for Change.
The roundup.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this because a lot of people don't know what those are. Can you explain what that is and what it does?
Yeah, so every month there's a new nonprofit. So it's your roundup at the register. So you ask your customer, would you like to round up for this nonprofit? And this is a program for us that has grown from, like, we used to collect maybe $1,000, $1,500 a month to last month we were able to give one of our fantastic nonprofits, the Northampton Survival Center, $20,000
For Change for
from
Change.
Change for Change. That is customer impact, right? That is the shoppers coming in, and they're rounding up, and so it's really. I mean, that's the other thing. You don't have to have a food for all program, because it's a lot, but you can also just highlight a great local nonprofit that does something in your community as well, right? Like, put them on your social media, throw them in your e-news, like let them table outside, like build those partnerships too, because it can grow from $1,500 in donations to the community giving them $20,000 over time.
Yeah.
As our sales grow, so
And so sales grow, so will theirs.
Yeah. And this photograph of like the outdoor party in front of the East Hampton store, that's our annual strawberry ice cream social where we highlight local heroes our co-op heroes every year, and we pick a nonprofit, a local farmer, a local business, and an individual. And this year was the Center for New Americans, who we've partnered with since the first year we opened. But they do a lot of work with new immigrants and with education and housing and job placement and just all kinds of things like that. Of course, they had big funding cuts this year, and we were able, through our Change for Change program and the Strawberry Ice Cream Social, we raised like $35,000 for them in total, which allowed them to be able to do the summer program, which their grant funding got pulled from, and they weren't sure how they were going to be able to do it. And also we have employees that
Susu from the sushi.
Susu from sushi came through there. We have a number of employees that have come through their program. So there's just this, people have, other community organizations or groups of people have good ideas. Like, we have somebody that just came to us and said, we want to do these like mini forest demonstration plots, and are working with is it 360.org? What is it? Anyway, climate change. And so we're working on figuring out where to put a little demonstration. Just all kinds of things come up. Even like our solar. One of the early things when I was just getting like my second like big co-op fundraising event, a member came up to me and said, well, we're going to have environmental sustainability it needs to be really well done in this community. It's really important to people. And I was like, and we're a startup, and it'll be, we've got to balance costs and all of these things. And she was like, well, yeah. And there are grants available for that. And like, I could like be part of a committee and help do that. And we ended up getting in the Northampton store a 34 kilowatt solar generating installation on our roof with our first store, and then our second store is the first grocery store in North America that has enough solar to offset our annual use. It's like almost a megawatt with the solar over our parking lot plus the roof. And in both cases, other funding made it happen. It didn't come out of our pocket. We
And I
just
think a
worked
lot
with.
of startup organizers on this call who don't have stores open yet can really bond with that. If you guys have had like, as you get people to understand the power of what a food co-op can do, people are coming forward and saying, well, how can we make this happen together? Like we get how the co-op could be a conduit. And so how can we help you make these things happen so we all get them? And that's, as Rochelle's pointing to, it started small and sort of like people kind of like helping us to turning into, these giant opportunities. And people get that, about the co-op that, if we're really out there telling the story of the values and what we're trying to accomplish and we can paint the picture for folks, they will bring opportunities to the co-op. And I want to take just a second to ask you, Dorian, as a board member, I think what a lot of startup boards sometimes struggle with is, we have built this thing from the ground up. We built the vision. I know you weren't necessarily on the board then, but like this, and we handed over manifesting the vision to the staff, and how do you, as a board member, how does your board stay really engaged with all of this beautiful manifestation of the values and not end up like, just reading reports, but stay really connected to the experiencing the vision and being part of it?
That's such a great question. And it is an ongoing practice, right? I don't think of my board service as like this thing where I just kind of show up at the meeting and check the box and, have a laugh or two and then go home or be bored because I'm at a board meeting. It's every time we get together, it's a practice. It's a practice of remembering why we're here. We take time with the ends. We take time with all the various policies that we've laid out that help kind of carve the vision of what we imagine the store can be and what the co-op can accomplish over time. Like we really, Rochelle's great as a general manager in providing, interpretations of the policies and working with the staff to bring forward ideas that support the bigger vision. Co-op board members also we're all members of the community. We all are accountable to our neighbors and friends, and we're bringing those visions always there. So, it's true. When I joined the board, the store had been open for 2 years, and it was in that transitional moment where the founding board members, I think, were really struggling with exactly that experience of, we did this thing. Yes. And it's amazing what a group of volunteers can pull off. And you have to be in so many details and accomplishing so many things. And then there is that, but right, actually running a grocery store is a thing that has expertise. It has skill. There are strategies and techniques. And there's things about running a grocery store that I'm an accountant, or I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I don't know how to run a grocery store. I've been very involved for years, but, and so when I joined the board, I found myself falling into a little bit of the, that bridge, that gap, that little bit of okay, there's some leadership here around how does this board transition from being in every detail and instead guiding, holding the vision, holding the GM and staff accountable to the vision. Are we developing the systems that will support ongoing governance and guidance? And so it became more, governance system building. It's a different board that runs, it's a different board when the store's open than it takes for a board to build a store.
And I think you pointed out well, it's a different board to build to that point, and it's a different board that transitions into the relationship with the GM, and then it's a different board once you're at established and the GM is got their wings and things are going. And I love that you pointed that out. I want to spend just another minute on some things around community building here before we go into a couple more personal stories from each of you. I think that one thing we hear a lot, Natasha, is oh, and I think as a marketer, it's this push pull that you often end up in the role of representing, which is, we need to put our energy into being a grocery store. Like it's hard. The margins are tough. Like and then people are like, we don't have time for that kids program. We don't have time, for the Pride Parade. We don't have time for. How do you see that as part of the co-op's business success and why we put energy into it, both as a business and as a cooperative?
I mean, yeah, I mean, they have to, your internal messaging, right? If you're saying that you love local, that you're all about co-ops, you're all about nonprofits, you're all about this community, and you're not showing that to the outside, you're not actually being invested in the community, it's not going to work. So I mean, find a way, find a balance. Like it has to work. If I'm saying everyone is welcomed in the co-op, if I'm saying to my staff that you're welcome, and I'm not showing up for my staff at the Pride Parade, if I'm not, communicating, if I'm not building relationships with these nonprofits that they need, then it doesn't work, and you're not actually walking the walk. So it's like sometimes marketing gets a really it's such an umbrella topic, and sometimes like, oh, it's all about sales. It's like, no, we are the storyteller. You have a co-op that does amazing things,
Hmm.
and so the marketing's role is to tell that story in any way you can, in different ways, so it reaches everyone, so that everyone understands like the great things you do. Because like co-ops are fabulous, right? We do really great things. We do a lot. We care about the community, but like you have to make that known in the community as well,
Hmm.
or it won't work.
Absolutely.
And
And
I will
Rochelle, I
say,
wanted, oh, go ahead, sorry, good.
can I just really quick? Digital marketing, all that marketing is fabulous, but let me tell you, word of mouth is still like it is it will make or break your co-op. I have to say, like you can have fantastic digital marketing, you can have great ads in the paper, but the word of mouth between customers, between owners, between shoppers is really what's gonna keep your sales up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that I know one time a GM said to me, Rochelle, when I was in residency, that I think because it's funny, the way that he said it was, he goes, he was mentoring a new GM who had never been in the co-op world. He had run a conventional grocery store. And he said, what he said to me is, I love this. He's like, he said to me, because I feel like I'm running a business and a church. And what he meant by that was, I realized the co-op has a real duty to the community as a center of community that is manifesting this feeling of belonging, and that is really intense and different work. And I wonder, just your thoughts on resonating with that as someone who's has to, as a GM, balance those things, and if you experience it the same way.
Yeah, I didn't think about it as church, but
Yeah.
definitely like it's it is it's it's a community organization, and it's a grocery store, and you actually have to do both of them well, and uh, and the grocery is hard, and it is like it's a million details, and we don't get it right. There are things that go haywire, that even with the best planning. Um, anyway, getting the food right and making it a place that people want to shop, and then making it a place that they love for more than the shopping as well, I think is what seals the deal. But you have to be a place that people can get their groceries. It
Hmm.
has to work as a grocery store, and uh, and the other part. So we can convene lots of things, but we still have to exist by selling food, because we buy food, sell food, and do good stuff. But if we're not selling food, we're not buying food, and we're not doing good stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's well said. We have and I think I asked you to highlight that because I think that when you find a GM who is really good at what they do, they understand how to drive both forward and to help us connect to the reality of being a great grocery store is part of delivering the vision, and it's hard work. And yet we can drive that, that GM can drive that forward, but still always be centering the vision and the mission in a way that connects to the heart of everyone's involved in the work. And that's a special magic. And that gives me a moment to transition. We don't have too much more time together. We really only have 2 minutes each here. I would love to just take a second and ask you each if you could share one personal story about just one way the co-op has affected the community through one person, through one experience, through a huge thing that just has really touched you as an individual. And I'm actually going to ask Dorian if you could start.
Oh, JQ, this is a hard question. It feels like there's just so many ways that this particular co-op has affected my life, the life of my friends and community. I love what you just said about the grocery store and the church. I was looking at both Natasha and Rochelle. Oh, it is my church. What I mean by that, oh gosh, there's so many things that run through my head. The story that Rochelle told earlier about the farm that benefited from the store opening in '08. A couple of years after that, I learned about how our produce manager actually sits down with some new farmers and farmers that are just coming into the store to start selling and works with them on their planning for what to grow next year, because what sells and how it sells. So not just like, somebody standing at the gates of the grocery store and saying, well, yeah, okay, we'll take that, or we won't take that, or off with you, but rather, like putting their arm around the person and being like, okay, this was good. Next year, if you grow some of this and you're able to grow some of that, we think we could actually sell, and da-da-da-da. So there was something really powerful in learning that several years ago about how personal the connection could be. And I knew the ripple effect of all of that. The last thing I'll say about a personal impact to me, and it goes to this idea that, when we're forming the co-op, when we're like wishing for the co-op, we want it to happen, we're doing all the work. I remember showing up at the grand opening in April of 2008 of the Northampton store to open. And, it was a big to-do with the scissors and the ribbon cutting and the this and such. And I'm standing next to my partner, and just like both of us are in tears. And we said, like, who cries at the opening of a grocery store?
Anyone here who's opened a food co-op has.
Right. And it's like we know what it is that we're trying to do. We know the promise that's there. And I just feel really blessed almost 20 years later to still be tearing up at the grocery store.
That's what I've got. I love that. Thank you so much. Rochelle, I'm going to keep you for last. Natasha, I'd love to hear a personal story from you, someone who's behind the scenes most of the time, how you see the co-op manifest the vision and the mission in a way that just has touched you.
I feel like I honestly experience this every day, but I'll take one recently. I think when the country was going through the U.S. SNAP thing, and the partners in the community that reached out to us and was like, hey, like, what can we do together? Like, what can we do in the community? Like, what can we put out together? And it was just like understanding that we were able to help the community, I think was really impactful for me recently. But every day, I mean, I just got an email during this about someone was like, a fantastic customer service and how we made their evening and their dinner, and I almost teared up. I'm like, we made their dinner tonight, and it was just like so simple, right? But it's like the fact that she took the time to write that email to say I had the best experience at the co-op and my dinner came out great, right? It's like I tear up at that, and I knew we were going to tear up at that because we've teared up together. And I knew beforehand, if you say that story about the milk farmer, that we were all going to tear up. So I was glad the owl wasn't focused on me, because I was also like, oh, yeah. So it's every day, right?
And I love that. I just want to point to the level of trust it represents, both when the co-op is reached out to in a crisis and said, so what are we going to do together? And when we reach out and say, hey, we trust you to care that we had a wonderful dinner because of you. both are actually an expression of trust that is something that's magical about co-ops. And we got just a couple minutes left, but I'd love, Rochelle, I know you've shared a couple already, but I'd love for you to wrap us up with a personal story of what that has touched you.
Well, I think, this kind of idea of that co-ops empower a community.
Mm.
And one of the, like working together, we like created this like co-op or this, jointly owned community business that like serves the community. But within that, there are people, and people like, I have seen board members come in and be, like really transform into leaders. Jade was a volunteer with our
This is Jade Barker from Columinate Consulting, by the way, who was their founding board chair.
Yeah. And she was a volunteer before she joined the board, but she was not working in food co-ops. She was, she was doing some important work, but she got inspired through her board work and was really so good at it. She became a consultant to help other boards to do this kind of work. And we've had, and Dorian even switched careers. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Privileged to be mentored by Jade as well in the board work, and through the experience on the board, a CPA and an accountant that was myself chose to like, you know what, these things could help the co-op sector. How do I put myself to even more work in the co-op sector? And another early board member is just recently become a elected political official in our town. All kinds of leadership.
Yeah, and it, on the staff level too. Like our unions, many of our union stewards have ended up. They've developed their leadership and have become department managers and risen through the ranks. So it's just like it is individuals and the community empowerment. I think that who knows what we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. And the ripple effects that we're creating by teaching each other that we can do things, that we can create, we can lead one another, we can help. That's exactly how we get through these tough moments together, and the power of cooperation. I think I don't think there's anyone probably listening to this who is anywhere down a couple years down the road and starting a food co-op who've been in it for decades, who would say that they haven't been transformed in how they believe in the power of community. And the ripple effects are just incredible. We hear every day from co-ops that this person who met this person who's from this co-op, who learned this from this co-op and visited this co-op once. And I always love to tell open established food co-ops, you have no idea how many startups are organizing now because of you. And River Valley, it gives me a good wrap up here. River Valley is one of those co-ops that we know more directly. We hear from people all the time about River Valley and the inspiration River Valley is to them, and how that's part of why they wanted to form a food co-op. How they can tell River Valley's story to explain to people what a food co-op could do for their communities. So it's such an honor that you guys kicked off this new series for us, and as one of the first third wave co-ops, and told the story. And we're just so grateful to all three of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
We want to real quick just tell people that this is sponsored not by some corporation or some lender. This was sponsored by food co-ops across the country. We're able to do because we exist fully and exclusively because of food co-ops. And we're over 47 food co-ops this year who we call our full circle co-ops. They're financially supporting what we do at FCI so there can be a next generation of food co-ops. And thank you to them for making this series possible. And last but not least, if this is your first time interacting with Food Co-op Initiative, hello, welcome. We are a tiny little nonprofit that is 3 people that serve people across the nation, but mighty, and have many programs, initiatives, things you can find on our website, and almost all of it is free. Please check us out. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.